media day for the defensive backs, cornerbacks, specifically for the Pittsburgh Steelers. They had some names that I thought were very interesting that they met with. None bigger than Will Johnson out of Michigan. He will not test at the NFL Combine. There were a lot of corners today that were very impressive. Barron out of Texas was the most impressive human I've spoken to at the NFL Combine so far, player-wise. Will Johnson was a very close second. Didn't get an opportunity to ask Travis Hunter if he met with the Steelers because, well, there was 700 people trying to talk to Travis Hunter, and I said, I'm going to go over to Will Johnson. That sounds like a better time, better use of my time here in Indiana. Met with Will Johnson, met with a couple other corners, first-round guys that could fall to them at 21. And I don't know if Will Johnson will. I have a hard time believing he's going to, but the fact that the Steelers are keeping tabs on these guys, that they are impressed with them, and that they are taking time to learn them a little bit closer and a little bit more than we anticipated some of them being, I think it kind of opened the eyes to me that the Steelers do have some interest in corner. I don't think it's a lot, and that's why it's important to talk every day realistically and break down what we saw, but also what the noise is and what the rumbles are. And, I'm not hearing much about the Steelers having a strong interest at corner. The way I look at it, the way I still look at it is the Steelers would like to go into free agency and add a veteran that is somewhat inexpensive, that they do view defensive tackle, wide receiver, and running back ahead of cornerback in this draft class and in their free agency priority list. But I also view it as we're going to talk to all of these guys because if for some reason Barron, if for some reason Johnson falls to them in the first round, they're going to go and they're going to try to they're going to try to make a move and say, well, Will Johnson is the best player on the board. We have to go get Will Johnson. I think that's all it is. Do your homework at this point, but I am impressed with them meeting Will Johnson. I was very impressed with what I heard from him. I think he's going to kill it at his pro day, even if he's not doing anything here at the NFL Combine. I mean, Will Johnson's a name that everybody's impressed with. Corners in general, the fact that they're meeting with them. Your general thoughts on where the Steelers stand after meeting with, I would imagine all of the first-round corners outside of, I wouldn't imagine, I know all of the first-round corners outside of Travis Hunter.
Yeah, I mean, even though it is their fourth biggest need, it is still a need. So it makes sense that they would meet with some of those guys for the exact reasons you mentioned that, they're probably more so looking at a defensive tackle, more so looking at maybe a running back in that first round, maybe a wide receiver in that first round. But if somebody of the caliber of Will Johnson falls to them, they would at the very least want to be able to say that they've talked to the kid. So that's an opportunity that I don't think they could have passed up. Not to mention the fact that, listen, if they do, and this is if they do land Will Johnson, that answers a lot of people's prayers for more splash out of the secondary because this guy is as splashy as it gets. He missed most of this past season, and still you go back and you look, and he was one of the most electrifying players in the time that he played, not just leading up to a national championship in 2023, but in the early portions of 2024. So this guy is extremely talented. So it makes all the sense in the world that you would do your homework on him and also some of these other guys, because we talked about it yesterday and you were trying to get an answer out of me saying, well, what if this guy's not available? What if this guy's not available? Well, you're going to want to make sure that you have as much information on the guys that are going to be available as humanly possible. If the running backs are gone, Amari and Hampton and Ashton Jinty are gone. All right, well, you have to go to a different position. Well, if the defensive tackles that we talked about all of yesterday are gone, well, then you have to go to a different position. Well, if Emeka Ibuka is taken at 21 by the Broncos, well, what does that leave you with? Look at the cornerback position and make sure that you have your stuff down. So it makes all the sense in the world that they'd be meeting with them, especially because a lot of people are talking about Will Johnson potentially falling. I don't think it's going to happen, but there has been the thought out there.
Yeah, I agree. I don't think there's any chance, but there has been, people talk about it. People will continue to talk about it. He's been mocked to the Steelers more than once, which is, I mean, so is Ashton Jinty. And I got down here and I'm telling you right now, there is a barely above 0 chance Ashton Jinty gets out of the top 10. Like, 0.00001% chance he makes it to 11 in this NFL draft. There's just, they have to do their homework. They have to look at these guys, just like you said. And that's just doing your due diligence and in a way, making sure that all your ducks in a row for when April comes and you just don't know what happens. Because if Dante Jackson signs elsewhere and the Steelers would find themselves with Corey Trice and Joey Porter Jr., with James Pierre as their backup and Beanie Bishop in there somewhere, they're going to be searching for guys. And, well, it changes a lot of things.